As a sometime motorcyclist, I have watched with interest the evolution of that curious phenomenon known as the YouTube motorcycle vlogger. Now, I dipped my toe into this genre some 6 months ago, and so know a little whereof I speak. But what with the proliferation of people talking about motorcycles to increasingly impressive viewing figures, I felt it might provide some amusement to offer a critical, if jaded, survey of some of the more prominent figures vying for our eyeballs. The genre has matured to the point that production values can be genuinely striking, and you can observe over time this process play out with the introduction of drone footage, drive-by camera shots, snazzy intro sequences, and flashy editing. You can also see the development in the confidence and delivery of the presenter producers. And with their expanding viewer figures and subscriber numbers comes the temptation to monetize those eyeballs. The apex of this process is the self-branding that spins off from YouTube to other social media, and the trend towards money-raising sites such as Patreon and the pushing of branded merchandise. And the rather strange experience of watching them buy more bikes to talk about with those swelling income streams. But more of that later. So what does a motorcycle vlogger actually do? Well, they vary. Here in the UK, the ride and review format is fairly popular. This usually, but not always, involves a white middle-aged man giving his impressions of a bike he either owns, has borrowed from a mate, taken out as a dealer demo ride, or been lent by the manufacturer's marketing department. Cameras are attached to helmet, handlebars, and for more visceral drama, lower parts of the bike. A wind-shielded microphone is inserted into the helmet, and a slightly shouty presenter goes out onto the open road and discourses on the handling, torque, braking, comfort, and overall experience of the machine. Then at some point he pulls over, dismounts, and does the walk round. And this is where the manufacturer's specs are regurgitated, along with admiring acknowledgement of the Showa forks, or Brembo brakes, or Olin shocks. Then it's back on the bike for a final summing up. I assume the appeal of this format is a bit like that of Amazon reviews. Potential buyers can get a sense of what to expect. Similarly, people who've already bought the bike have something to agree or disagree with, hence the urgent exhortations to leave a comment. The presenter-producer enjoys the dopamine buzz of comments and views and positive feedback and likes. He eyes enviously the higher status of more successful rivals, and thus is launched his channel and his brand. At this point he may diversify into different content. He may haul before the camera his girlfriend, his wife, his kid, and he may be tempted to try the second genre of motorcycle vlogging, the travel log. This second format is less interested in the bike and more in the journey, less focused on the quirks of the machine and more on where it's taking you. Obviously, these are more likely to be drawn to exotic and dramatic locales, often featuring mountains and lakes and rarely visited foreign backwaters. Fortunately, we rarely get to follow the slow, crowded roads and identikit towns of England. Although handsome young Freddie Dobbs and his passenger photographer partner Monica did have a go, before selling up, loading their life and Bonneville onto a trailer, and hightailing it down to the Canary Islands with their mountains and lakes, and remote villages and charming locals and, well, you get the idea. When the bikes do take centre stage, it's usually part of the narrative drama. Will it run out of petrol before the next Indian village? Will the small Alaskan town have a mechanic able to repair the puncture? Will it manage the precipitous descent onto the Serengeti? This sort of thing has a long and illustrious lineage, from Ted Simon's Jupiter's Travels to Ewan McGregor's Long Way Round, to more recently the work of Itchy Boots. The latter in particular has very effectively leveraged a strong brand presence from her charming international rides, to the point that she produces not in terms of individual episodes, but entire series, each devoted to a different continent. Here, the character mediating the experience takes centre stage, and the viewer-presenter nexus assumes an emotional dimension, a bit like the attachment a football supporter feels for his club. And these kinds of attachment, as Sky Sports long ago realised, can be very lucrative. A third genre, and the one I enjoy most, is the slightly zany, offbeat, oddball approach taken by Ryan Fortnine and the Australian Marlon. These mavericks play with the format, interrogate the murky arrangements between vlog reviewer and manufacturer, and often make you laugh aloud. But more importantly, these guys know their onions. And this is important when we're standing in front of a camera trying to think of things to say about motorcycles. Hey kids. That won't last, I thought to myself the first time I watched the Missenden Flyer. And sure enough, the catchphrase eventually morphed into, "Hey folks," before morphing back again when customers decided they preferred the original. I suppose catchphrases are effective in reinforcing unique brand identity. TMF, as he stars himself, was one of my first experiences of motorcycle vlogging. You see, I was interested in buying a bike, and there he was, this prolific producer of bike content, in my list of YouTube recommendations. TMF is a small powerhouse, churning out all manner of stuff. Reviews of bikes, flights in his private plane, interviews and chats with other bike vloggers, travelogue tours with his wife in the UK and abroad, guided walkarounds of his capacious garage, opinions on the content of Motorcycle News magazine, and more recently, videos following his wife's learning to ride. TMF charmingly disavows any motorcycling expertise in favour of a sort of everyman biker shtick. This suppressed anxiety may account for his serious man crush on MCN's expert reviewer, one Michael Neves, himself a serious shot of motorcycling testosterone, who reminds me of the terrifying monosyllabic ex-military motorcycle instructors that taught me how to ride, and who regularly recur in my humiliation nightmares. TMF has lots of sponsors, lots of branded merchandise, and lots of subscribers, and a Patreon page where said subscribers are presumably encouraged to donate, and a garage stuffed with Ducatis, Triumphs, Hondas, bespoke customs, etc., and helmets and jackets and jeans. It's like a bike dealer's lockup in there, and all so clean and ordered. Every few months there's a new addition to the stable, and with it the inevitable possibility for new content. The unveiling, the 5 things I love, the 5 things I hate, the long-term review. And thus the wheel turns. I like TMF. He's slimmer, more toned, more tanned, glossier, as the sheen of motorcycle celebrity develops. He's a meat and potatoes sort of guy, a bit Little England, a bit Daily Mail, a bit David Brent. The odd ill-advised sexist leer at passing women notwithstanding, his chirpy presentation is reassuring. And it must be quite a slog researching, filming, editing this small tsunami of output, even if the remuneration must make it more than bearable. But there is a certain lightweight feel to his work, an absence of irony and playfulness, and what I would call philosophy, and a sense of the limitations of the amateur. You see, there's only so much you can say about a motorcycle when, as are most of us, you're an everyman rider who's never rebuilt an engine or forced a bike into the curves of a racetrack at terrifying speeds. So instead, you dutifully trot off the specs, ride down some rural roads, mutter words like flickable and twisties, and offer up some vague subjective opinion. So you can sort of understand the need to diversify. The hipster reviewer, Triumph shill. Moto Bob started out his YouTube career, as do most others, with helmet cam footage and helmet mic commentary of dealer bike demo rides. And these often involved the sort of scary racing through London traffic that us town riders associate with deranged pizza delivery moped loons. But what marked out Moto Bob very early on was that vocal delivery. The sudden emphasis, the slickness, the air of expectant excitement, and the sense of someone having sat down to study closely a DVD box set of the collected works of one Jeremy Clarkson. The hipsterization soon followed. Baseball cap to hide the hair loss? Check. Beard? Check. 1950s style NHS glasses? Check. Checked shirt? Check. At the same time, his production values soared. Now, there comes a time when a vlogger's subscriber numbers climb to the point that they attract the attention of motorcycle manufacturers' marketing departments. And this is where things can get a little murky. Invitations to Mediterranean press launches, pre-launch rides, factory tours, exclusive interviews with designers and chief engineers. Suddenly you have access to a cornucopia of potential content. But are you really going to tell it like it is? Look what happened to the Algarve-based Rocket Man when he vlogged his disappointment with the brand new Triumph rocket he'd ordered. Triumph threatened him with legal action if he didn't remove the video from YouTube. To his credit, if not theirs, he went on to buy a Trident and then a Speed Twin. Ryan Fortnine has talked at length about the risks for reviewers of cozying up to manufacturers, and things can quickly get a bit dodgy. Who paid for that new bike anyway? What about those accessories? And why is this brand commissioning you to cover their launch? More recently, to meet the endless need for content churn, Moto Bob has started producing what I call the glossy pre-launch spec bomb. This is a sort of flashy news bulletin that repackages a manufacturer's recent press release. So you get the official photos and footage, the specs, the PR fluff, all reproduced with those exciting, breathy emphases. Moto Bob's good at what he does, but the tendency to spec listing can get a little wearisome. Like myself and Rocket Man, Stuart Fillingham is a bit camera shy. He began with silent footage of long rural rides somewhere up north, set to commentary, recorded at a different time. These monologues, however, are rather oddly edited so that the natural pauses of human speech are missing. The effect makes for a rather fatiguing listening experience. Now, Stuart's appeal is of the no-nonsense northerner, the ponderous delivery, the unabashed accent, the unapologetic opinions, the refusal to have anything to do with nonsense like helmet mics, and the near monomaniacal focus on Royal Enfields. Stuart, you see, has a near miraculous gift for squeezing content from his Royal Enfield Interceptor. But he illustrates the problem every motorcycle vlogger faces when he or she has run out of things to say about their bike. Now, Stuart's old school. He invokes fry-ups and strong tea, Brexit and books on the British biking heritage of the 1960s. Come rain or snow, there he'll be, guiding his trusty Royal Enfield across some Yorkshire moor, sneering at southern jesses like me with our heated grips and heated gloves and heated vests. Father-son relationships are something of a problem with me. So to see the filial dynamic played out in the hyper-masculine world of motorcycles is a little terrifying, not to mention a psychological minefield. Old man is an interesting act of self-nomenclature, in that it means simultaneously father and ageing male. This particular example exemplifies the dominant motorcycling demographic of our time, grey, bearded and hurtling towards his bus pass. And the anxiety of the alpha male losing his place at the top of the pile to the younger rival is here palpable. Old man makes repeated reference to his size, his height, 6 foot 2 inches, and his predilection for bikes big enough to match his heft. He calls himself controversial, whatever that means, and comes over as a sort of cross between Arnie Schwarzenegger in The Terminator and Jeremy Clarkson. I bet he dreams in Old Norse. The son, on the other hand, sort of fades into the background when around the motorcycling colossus that is his father. The thin voice and self-conscious delivery illustrate the dangers of not pushing through with the impulse of adolescent rebellion into self-definition. After all, wasn't the act of buying your first motorcycle meant to be the great parental "fuck you"? The channel feels a bit like when an exasperated dad marches his feckless teenage son down to the job centre. I do hope this isn't the case. Now, who doesn't love Freddie Dobbs? 9 feet tall, US Marine crew cut, not a hint of flab. And am I the only one who yells, "What the fuck?" every time he does that thing where he leans the bike right over on its side? His early videos were charmingly simple, unscripted nattering away an iPhone wielded by the ever camera-shy girlfriend Monica. This lo-fi approach suited the wide-eyed innocence of the delivery, and Freddie had little fear of oversharing as he took us to market towns and coastal villages, as enthused and guileless as a boy. The motorcycling element soon gave way to the travelogue as the pair made their way to Tenerife. Gloriously uncool, I think he wants to be Motorbob, but he's better as he is. Not far away at the foot of the Iberian Peninsula is the wonderfully mellifluous Rocket Man. That rich, fruity baritone is a joy to the ear. Then you realise he sounds exactly like James May. I mean, exactly like James May, which is kind of spooky. That lazy public school delivery oozes easy confidence, as reassuring as a middle-class airline pilot. And you trust him enough to hand him over your wallet, let alone take him at his word when he rates the bikes he rides. And he needs to be commended for trying to bring some objectivity to this practice of video motorcycle reviewing. Admittedly, the graph spreadsheet thing he uses to measure his bike set my head spinning, but that's my failure, not his. The format is familiar, helmet cam footage of rides with added voiceover. Admittedly, the roads lined with palm trees and the mountain backdrops are a major improvement on the B-roads surrounding Slough, but no sign so far of Rocket Man facing the camera. I guess not everyone hankers after YouTube celebrity. But I suspect his local dealers love him for his habit of buying a new, accessorised to the gills bike, only to swap it for something else a few months later. His demented quest for that holy grail of the perfect motorcycle reflects, I would argue, something important about our relationship to these maddening machines, and also partly explains the growing appeal of that heroic figure, the motorcycle vlogger. So, when you're lying in a warm bed on a Saturday morning at the end of a long, hard work week, pity the poor motorcycle vlogger who's up at the break of dawn, pulling on helmet, gloves, boots, and riding through freezing weather for miles and miles to some godforsaken town where the dealer will let you take out his demo bike for half an hour or so, then riding around strange back roads trying to think of something interesting to say about the damn thing, trying to remember any of those specs you learned the night before, and then, at the end of a long ride home, suddenly realising the microphone cut out or the video camera stopped recording. It certainly doesn't sound like something I'd want to be doing.